Okay, so yeah. What time do you guys have?
Want to do the housekeeping?
Today's meeting. If attending in person, please do not connect to Zoom or teleconference while in the room, and please silence all devices. If translation is provided, click on the globe at the bottom of your screen to select either English or Spanish. Public comment will be taken after each item. If you're in the auditorium and wish to comment, please use the iPads located in the lobby or complete a blue speaker card as available. If you need assistance, please find a South Coast AQMD employee. Speakers may be limited to a total of 3 minutes or less for all agenda items. Times may be shortened to ensure all speakers can be heard. A countdown timer will be displayed on the screen for each public comment. More time will be allotted for Spanish translation that is not simultaneous. For questions or issues on making a public comment, please call the public advisor at 909-396-2432. That's 909-396-2432. Please adhere to the speaker time limit and treat others with courtesy, civility, and respect. Failure to do so can result in your mic being muted or you being removed from the meeting. Be aware that this meeting is being recorded. By participating, you authorize recording of audio and visual content presented during the live event and consent to subsequent use of the recording in the public domain by South Coast AQMD.
I call to order the Stationary Source Committee for February and ask for roll call.
Good morning. Supervisor Hagman, Supervisor Mitchell, absent. Board Member Padilla Campos, absent. Council Member Rahman, absent. Dr. Rutland, absent. And Chair McCallum.
Here. Well, we don't have a quorum, but the items are informational only and don't require a vote. So we will proceed with item number 1, update on the proposed amended Rule 1136, presented by Heather Farr. Heather.
Good morning. Good morning, Committee Chair McCallum, members of the committee. I'm here to present proposed amended Rule 1136. Thank you. Next slide, please. This rule was adopted in 1983, last amended in 1996. It establishes VOC limits on wood coatings. The manufacturers do rely a lot on exempt compounds to meet those limits. We are proposing to amend the rule to address 2 compounds that have been determined to have toxic endpoints. They include tertiary butyl acetate, or TBAC, and parachlorobenzoyl trifluoride, or PCBTF. Next slide, please. Just some background on exempt solvents. These are solvents that have low photochemical reactivity, so they don't result in a lot of ground level smog. So they are considered exempt. They're not counted towards the VOC content of a coating. Manufacturers really do rely on these to meet the VOC limits, especially when it comes to wood coatings. We did a survey and found over 85% of the coatings sold in our jurisdiction do rely on PCBTF to meet our limits. And some exempt compounds do have some toxic endpoints or concerns. And so we do have a history of having prohibitions against those in our VOC rules, including exempts that we call Group 2. These are compounds that can have toxic endpoints or ozone depleters, other concerns. So we put in restrictions on their use. And, back in around 2017, we were addressing some potential exempts that had some concerns, and we brought the concerns to the committee. And we were directed in 2017 to prioritize lowering volatility over achieving further VOC reductions. Next slide, please. So then 2018 and 2020, the Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment, or OEHA, did determine that TBAC and PCBTF were both potent carcinogens. So since that time, we have been systematically going through our VOC rules to find ways to phase out or limit the use of these 2 compounds. We started in 2022 with our adhesives rule. We also worked on our auto body, solvent cleaning, and metal coating rule. Next month, we'll be bringing our aerospace rule. That one had some additional challenges, so we put in some options so our facilities can continue to use those as long as they install controls and they can do it in a health protective manner. Next slide, please. So I want to talk a little bit about VOCs and ozone formation. When I talked about those exempt compounds, those are compounds that are deemed exempt because of their minimal ozone formation, but all different solvents have different reactivities associated with them. And those can be measured and are measured, and they're assigned maximum incremental reactivity, or MIR. And we can use those MIRs as a kind of different metric to control VOC emissions and control the impact of those coatings on our air quality. So having MIR-based limits is not a new concept. The California Air Resources Board uses them for aerosol coatings as well as some consumer products. And in some of our recent rules, we did include these MIR limits for kind of some smaller specialty categories where we just didn't identify any other way without the use of those exempt compounds, PCB, TF, or TBAC, to lower the limits. So they allow the manufacturers some formulation flexibility while still limiting the ozone impact in our region. So for 1136, we do have some additional challenges. A lot of coatings have transitioned to kind of water-based coatings, but there's still some challenges when it comes to wood substrates. So we are proposing for 1136 to include these reactivity-based limits to allow those manufacturers a little bit more flexibility while minimizing the impact of ozone in our jurisdiction. Next slide, please. So our overall phase-out approach, we intend to hold the VOC limits where they are now, but introduce these alternative MIR limits for all of the major coating categories. And then we're going to have a future effective phase out for PCBTF, giving 3 years for most of those coatings to phase out of PCBTF, and then include sell through and use through so we can address those coatings that are already in the supply chain or at our shop levels. Next slide, please. This just shows our schedule. So most of the products under 1136 fall under that wood coating materials. So in April 2029, phase out, which would be 3 years from rule adoption, with their sell through and use through. We were requested to have longer time for colorant, so we're providing that as well. And then paint strippers, we haven't found they use any PCB, TF, or TBAC, so we're just giving a couple months just as a buffer from the time that the rule is adopted. Next slide, please. We have been requested to include a technology check-in, and staff does agree that is important with these rules where we have reformulations. So just before those limits go in, we can check back with the manufacturers, make sure things are going well, gives us time to make any adjustments if we would have to. Next slide, please. When it comes to the impacts, the transition to these reformulated products is not expected to be at any significant increase. There's minimal compliance costs associated with it. Next slide, please. And for the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, this rule is health protective, phasing out of PCBTF and TBAC. There's no other significant impacts expected, so it does qualify for a notice of an exemption, which will be prepared. Next slide, please. As for next steps, we have a set hearing March 6th, and our public hearing is scheduled for April 3rd. And with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you, Heather. Supervisor, any questions? Are there any public comments on this item? If so, raise your hand online. Seeing none, thank you very much. Appreciate it. On to item number 2, update on proposed amended Rule 1144, presented by Michael Morris. Michael.
Good morning, Chair McCallum and board members. Rule 1144, next slide, please. Regulates the VOC content of metalworking fluids and direct contact lubricants. These are products that are mostly used in machine shop type applications. We have several thousand of them here in the South Coast Basin, but that equipment typically doesn't have any permits with us. And so the regulatory effort for this rule is usually with the manufacturers of these products. And like 1136, which you just heard before, this effort is to prohibit PCBTF and TBAC in these formulations. And I won't go into much of that because you just heard an explanation of that. Next slide, please. So we did reach out to these manufacturers through a survey, through a questionnaire, and then some direct discussions about the use of those two materials in metalworking fluids and lubricants. And their indication to us is that they are not used at this time. So we don't have a lot of reformulation needed as part of this. Next slide, please. So we have an accelerated phase out schedule. the final manufacturing date being 2027, sale date of 2028, and the final use date of 2029. We did include a buffer just in case through our process of reaching out and to these manufacturers, we might have missed somebody. Next slide, please. As you might imagine, since there's no reformulation needed, there's no costs expected, there's no significant environmental impacts expected, and we're not aware of any key issues at this time. Next slide, please. And we're planning to bring this rule in April. Thank you very much.
Through the chair, just curious question. I know sometimes we exempt military because obviously it's like one size fits all for the military. Is that an exemption on these rules?
So we have a special limit for military products. It's 340 grams per liter. It's much higher than the typical metalworking fluid, which tends to range in the 25 gram per liter level.
Okay, so you don't see any issues with that whatsoever?
We haven't had any issues in the now 16 years that we've had this rule in place.
Great, thank you.
You did a survey. How many of the manufacturers responded? What percentage?
We had 4 manufacturers, 4 larger manufacturers. So there are quite a few that provide these products, and 4, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it actually represents a good chunk of the overall sales. So we went directly to the Independent Lubricant Manufacturing Association, which covers almost all of the people who sell these products, and that's where we did the questionnaire with them. And they came back to us and said, yeah, we don't see any usage.
Okay. Is there any public comment on this item? I know Rita Loof originally raised her hand on the first item, and I didn't see it. Did you want to comment, Rita? Seeing none, we'll move ahead. Thank you very much.
Her hand is raised, Vice Chair.
It's not showing up on this thing. There
Huh.
it is. Rita, go ahead.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it. Rita Loof, Director of Environmental Affairs for RATIC International. And my comments are related to item number 1, Rule 1136 for wood coatings. We made comments during the public workshop for the rule. And we are essentially agnostic as far as TBAC and PCBTF because our materials do not contain those chemicals. We're glad that the staff report recognizes that coating manufacturers will need to reformulate products to maintain performance while reducing regulated VOC content, and that early compliance strategies included transition from traditional high solvent formulations to waterborne, UV curable, and high solids coatings. But basically, we've asked the staff to remove some of the barriers to using UV, EV, LED coatings in wood operations. Our products, like I said, do not contain PCBTF or TBAC, which are the target substances here, and they have very low VOC levels, often below 50 grams per liter, and they avoid the need for thermal oxidizers and corrosive byproducts. So exempting super compliant products would encourage further emission reductions, and we've asked for modest rule changes such as inclusion of electron beam and LED technology, and update the definitions to include energy curable materials and specify an industry endorsed test method for thin film energy curable coatings. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rita, for your comments. Next, we have item number 3. It's an annual reclaim audit report presented by Jillian Wong.
Good morning, Chair
Good morning.
McAllen, Supervisor Hagman. So this is a routine report for the reclaim audit that staff did, and this is for the 2024 compliance year. So by way of background, Reclaim was adopted in October of '93, a cap and trade program for the largest sources of NOx and SOx in our jurisdiction. Every facility was issued an allocation that would decline over time. And then at the end of each compliance year, operators have to hold sufficient RTCs, or the reclaim credits, to cover their annual emissions. In order to do that, because it is declining, they can choose to either make emission reductions or to purchase RTCs. Rule 2015 requires that we perform an annual audit of the program and report that to the board. Next slide, please. So this slide shows you what the RTC supply is and then the emissions. So in pink is the supply. The program goal is basically for the blue line to never exceed the pink line. And what we're showing is that based on our audits through the years and for this cycle, 2024, that is true. Next slide, please. So the main audit findings are we do have 8 facilities less than what we started the year with. So 8 facilities dropped out of the program through closure. Overall, the program has met its goals of allocations being above emissions. At a facility level, there was also a high rate of compliance. Only 9 facilities did not meet or went over their allocations. And then in terms of the RTC price, the prices stayed below the health and safety code threshold. Next slide, please. Now, I mentioned the health and safety code threshold. In Rule 2015, there is also a backstop threshold, and that is 15,000 per ton. In calendar year 2021, that threshold was exceeded in when we provided the report for 2022. We did do an assessment of the program, and we, at that time, had a recommendation that the program continue with no changes. The board did agree with staff and determined the same outcome. What we're seeing now is that as of today, the price continues to be exceeded. Circumstances have not changed. Therefore, we do not recommend any further action or analysis is required. Next slide, please. So in summary, programmatic compliance was achieved. As you saw, actual emissions did not exceed allocations on the aggregate. At an individual facility level, compliance also remains high. The discrete year NOx prices are below the health and safety code threshold. However, they still continue to be above the $15,000 per ton backstop threshold, but we recommend no additional analysis is required because circumstances have not changed since the last time the analysis is performed. And the annual reclaim audit report, this report will be presented to the governing board for approval in March. And that's the end of my presentation. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Supervisor, any questions?
Okay, just curious, for the ones who left, did we find out why they left? Did this relocated, they closed shop? I'm just curious as, you know, the health, are we exporting our businesses to other locations?
Yes, we have a list of the facilities that left. I think one did not get their power agreement renewed, and others just for, you know, their own reasons in terms of business operations chose to leave.
I'm just curious if there's a way to maybe follow up and just on the side, if they actually relocated to another place in California or outside the state. I'm just curious.
And actually, Appendix C of the report
Has it in there?
has all of the, each of the facilities, their reasons for leaving. And yeah, we have it all in there if you would like.
Thank you.
Very good. Is there any public comment on this item?
No attendees in the auditorium and no hands raised on Zoom, Chair.
Very good. Thank you very much, Jillian. That completes our reports. There are 3 written reports. Any need to pull and discuss those? Supervisor? I just want to make comment on the permitting enhancement program. Good job. Looking at the those that have come in and those that have gone out, it looks like it's doing very well. Encourage you to keep it up.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Any public comments on the written material, written reports? I see no one raising their hand and we have no one in the audience, so we will go on to other business. Seeing none. Public comment period for items not on the agenda, but under the purview of this committee. You want to comment, please raise your hand. Seeing none, we will adjourn this meeting to our next meeting on March 20th. Thank you all for participating.